This weekend, or actually last weekend by the time this goes up, was Wonderfest in Japan, and so we've got a bunch of exciting news coming out of the convention. I'm going to start off with the figures that I'm most interested in. Takara unveiled not one, but two brand new Masterpiece Transformers figures this weekend, or last weekend. First is Masterpiece Beast Wars Tigatron. Right off the top, I'd like to say that he looks amazing. Like the other Beast Wars masterpieces, he looks just like he did in the cartoon, or at least pretty close to it. Now, I've read mixed reports about whether or not he's an upscaled remolded Cheetor, or if he's an entirely new mold. Some people have said that he is entirely redesigned from the ground up, while others say that he's based on the Cheetor mold, but scaled up and resculpted. Which would make the most sense because that's basically what he was in the show. One major difference between him and Cheetor is that now, instead of having a false beast head on his chest, this new Masterpiece Tigatron uses his actual beast head for his chest. Just like the original Tigatron. Another change is that Tigatron has his arm missiles, which he used in his first appearance. Other than that, he more or less looks like what you'd expect, an upscaled, remolded Cheetor. And as we can see from the pictures, he's right between Cheetor and Dinobot height-wise. He's definitely a must-buy for any Beast Wars fan, although he is priced at 24,000 yen, which is about $220 US or $290 Canadian. Which, that puts him about twice the price of Cheetor, but to be fair, he is about twice the size overall. Also, I personally had an issue with my Masterpiece Cheetor, where one of his shoulders was so tight that it was very hard to move. I've even tried to loosen the screw holding the shoulder together to see if that would work, but I can't even get it to budge with the tools at my disposal. And I'm afraid that if I use too much force, it'll either strip the screw or otherwise damage the figure in some way. Again, this is probably just my copy of the figure, so I doubt Tigatron will have this issue too. I also like how his Beast Mode head makes his chest instead of stuffing his real Beast Mode head into his chest like Cheetor, which risks damaging his cat whiskers, resulting in many collectors simply removing the beast head when transforming him into robot mode rather than risking damaging it. But yeah, I am definitely looking forward to this big cat. Now on to the other masterpiece revealed at Wonderfest this past weekend, Masterpiece G1 Arcee. Yes, we've had many third-party Arcee figures throughout the years, as well as more to come like Big Firebird's Nicee. And I think that Arcee was even the first full third-party figure with Impossible Toys' Valkyrie. But now, after the likes of Toy World's Leia, Masterminds Creations' Azalea, and Fan Toys' very controversial Rouge, we finally have an official Masterpiece Arcee figure. And I think she looks good. Not great, but good. Like many others, the first thing I noticed about her was her chest. And I too thought it was mistransformed. But this is Takara, not Hasbro. They're not really known for mistransforming their own figures. And like some have pointed out, this does seem to be how Takara intends for her to look. In fact, the old Generations Thrilling 30 Arcee had a similar chest, the way there was these two pink parts at her shoulders that led down in a concave line towards the peak of her chest. I believe this is supposed to emulate the way some human women's chests might look in certain clothing, but it's actually not accurate to how Arcee's chest looked in Transformers the Movie, G1 Season 3 and 4, or The Headmasters, where it was the opposite, how there was either a straight or convex line leading from the top of her shoulders to the furthest point on her chest. Also, some people have photoshopped how her chest should look, which is funny because of how Takara's been going for a more cartoon accurate look when it comes to their Masterpiece figures in recent years. Only for them to make this Arcee who is slightly less than cartoon accurate. But this is also Arcee, so I imagine there will be plenty of third-party upgrade kits for her if you don't like her chest as it is now. And I do agree that she should look more like these photoshops. So I too will be looking for a third-party upgrade to give her a more G1 accurate chest, but maybe not so much some other certain upgrades. Another complaint people have had with her is her face. They mainly say that her eyes are too big, her chin is too pointy, and just her face overall is too long. I can sort of see what they're talking about, but it doesn't really bother me as much as it does other people. And I actually like her bigger eyes. That would actually be one of the complaints I have about other third-party Arcees. Another thing is her thighs, which, like her chest, I think the designers are trying to go for a more human female look, whether or not that is actually accurate to the original cartoon design. Some people have said that they don't think they're thick enough, which, to be fair, Arcee did have some thick hips, but I think it's more about how her thighs are shaped where they meet her crotch. Speaking of her crotch, well, let's just call it what it is. Her panty region seems to be a bit skimpier than it was in animation. Man, I don't think most Masterpieces, or any other Transformers figures, get as hyper-analyzed as this Arcee figure. It really says something about how we judge female bodies versus male ones. I mean, I don't see anybody complaining about Tigatron's crotch being a millimeter too small, or photoshopping his chest to be bigger. Now there's an idea for a potential repaint. Technically, Tigatron's alt mode is female, because he scanned his friend Snowstalker, who was female. So what if Takara made a Masterpiece Snowstalker who was basically a female version of Tigatron? Maybe remold and repaint some parts? I better get off this tangent before I end up having to Photoshop something for the video. So yeah, I think those are all minor complaints compared to the biggest issue that I agree about on this figure, which is her huge backpack. Some even calling it a double backpack because of the way that it looks like both her wheel wells sit back there. I mean, it really looks like her entire car mode is scrunched up on her back. I wouldn't be surprised if one of the first things people did when they get her in hand was find a way to remove her backpack and basically transform it so that you essentially have a complete Arcee robot mode and a complete Arcee car mode. Kind of like some shell formers. Another complaint people have had is that she's using a stand to hold her up. They're worried that she's not going to be able to stand on her own. Which, again, to be fair, she does have that huge backpack, but Tigatron is using a stand. I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt for now that it's not so much a fact that she can't stand on her own, but more that these are prototypes and they just don't want them falling over and potentially breaking if someone accidentally bumps the display or something like that. So I wouldn't be too worried about it right now. I'd wait until people get her in hand first and then see what they say. Overall, I think this Arcee looks pretty good. Not great, just kind of good. The only accessories she's shown with right now are her gun, which looks really tiny for some reason. I wonder if it can stow in her thigh like a certain other upcoming Arcee figure. And her other known accessory is the spike stick thing that she used to trip up one of the Junkions in Transformers the movie. I wonder what other accessories she might come with. Maybe the key to the plasma energy chamber?
Give it to me, Scourge!
Good work, Arcee.
The female one, Mighty Scorponok, she has the key!
Arcee!
Daniel! Oh!
All right, leave him alone. You want the key, take it. Just don't hurt him anymore.
Or who knows? Maybe they'll do a transforming Headmaster Daniel for her, although those were both in the Rebirth, which was not a part of G1 in Japan, so I doubt it. So that's it for the Masterpiece news for now, unfortunately, as great as it is. Maybe we'll eventually get a Masterpiece Air Razor to go with Tigatron, and people will complain about her proportions too. Although Air Razor was actually a dude in the Japanese dub of Beast Wars, so who knows what we'll get. And finally, the only other big piece of news to come out of Wonderfest was Studio Devastator being fully unveiled in plastic form. Both his individual Constructicon robot and vehicle modes, and his completed combined mode. As someone who doesn't really collect Studio Series stuff, or much movie stuff at all, I will say that he is very impressive. It's a million times better than the original movie Devastator toy we had, which was just the vehicles that combined into Devastator, but with no individual robot modes. Or we also had the legend scaled one that oddly had both the individual robot modes and vehicle modes, and still combined into Devastator, which for some reason the big toy couldn't do. I had the G1 repaint of that toy, and it was pretty good. But of course, it was still Legend scale, so it didn't scale well with your mainline movie toys. And it's funny how this Legend set had an extra member, Overload, which is now an important part of this full-fledged Studio Series version. If you want to learn more about Overload, check out my buddy Protoman's video about that. But yeah, as far as Movie Devastator goes, he looks pretty good. It looks pretty faithful to the movie character's appearance, although I gotta wonder, is he going to have the big metal wrecking balls? Maybe that'll be a third-party upgrade for him. So that's basically everything from Wonderfest this past weekend. They had some Earthrise figures, and Masterpiece Lio Convoy, and a fully combined Piranacon, but we've seen all of them before. The main things for me were the Masterpiece Tigatron and Arcee. I'm very much looking forward to both of them. I'll be interested in seeing more of Arcee and some eventual comparison shots with her and her third-party counterparts. The only Masterpiece style Arcee mold I have is Zinnia, which was the TFCon exclusive Paradron Medic repaint of Mastermind Creations' Azalea. And she's a fantastic figure. I was tempted to get an original Arcee colors version of her, but now that we have an actual official Masterpiece Arcee, I'll just wait for her instead. Even though she may have some small issues, overall she looks good. Again, I can't wait to see what other accessories she comes with. I hope she has alternate facial expressions, which seems to be pretty standard for most Masterpiece figures these days. And if you can swap her face, that's probably good news for those who don't like her face sculpt, as there will probably be a third-party set of faces that they'll like better. And of course, I would not be surprised in the least if some third-party company comes out with some alternate chest pieces for her too. Alright, see you guys next time for more Transformers news.